What is up, guys? It is Dan here, and it's the first episode in a new series called Dan's Top 10s. So each time I'm going to be going to one specific console and going through my 10 favourite games for that console. So these are all games that have a really special place in my heart, have like really rich memories connected to them, are really rare or just really glad to have in my collection. So another thing I have done for this series of videos, these games have to be in my collection. I have to have a physical copy of these games. So if there's something missing, it might just be that I haven't added it yet. I know with all of these top 10 videos, people are always going to disagree, but these are my choices, these are what I like, but please sound off in the comments below what you think should have been in this top 10. This episode I'm going to be talking about the original Xbox. You know the one, the massive Xbox with that giant Duke controller. So I have some really fond memories of playing multiplayer with all my friends. This being one of the first consoles that we could hook up to two separate TVs. There were some incredible times, and these are my top 10 games for that console. Just bear in mind, this is not in any order. It was hard enough picking 10 games, as I have nearly 300 games for this system. So a little bit of history on Microsoft's Xbox. As we all know, the Xbox is a household name today, but at the time it was the first console that Microsoft made for the home market. Being released in 2002 in Europe, its stiffest competition was for the PlayStation 2. So it was a brave move from Microsoft to try and go against Sony. I'd like to say I picked mine up about 2003, 2004, but I'll never forget the first day I saw the Xbox running in an electronics boutique. So that is showing you how long ago that was. Anyway, here are the 10 games that I think are my favourite for the system. The first game I want to talk about in this top 10 is Far Cry Instincts. An amazing first-person shooter from Ubisoft, made at a time when first-person shooters were just finding their feet on consoles. Where this game really shone was in the multiplayer, and more specifically with its map editor. You could make any map you could imagine, just moulding rivers, mountains, adding in vehicles, and the added ability, the feral abilities, made this game really interesting in multiplayer. So many nights were spent playing this over two TVs via Ethernet, just so people could look at each other's screens and cheat. That is something you just don't get these days. Guys, leave a comment below. How many of you remember playing your games at home split over two TVs using an Ethernet cable? There is nothing worse than that one friend who will always look at the screen to see where you are and cheat to win. The next game I want to talk about is Mercenaries. I remember playing a demo of this with Official Xbox magazine back in the day, being absolutely blown away by the way you could achieve missions. You could use tanks, helicopters, airstrikes, any way you wanted to do the mission, and the destructibility of this game for its time was absolutely incredible. A massive open world, tons to do, loads of destructive fun, and it never got old just dropping a massive bomb on a single person. Another really good thing this game did was having all its target as a pack of cards. So you could literally work your way through the pack of cards, get up to the face cards to fight the harder enemies. You also got a bonus for taking these alive, even though most of the time it was much funnier just dropping a nuclear bomb on them. Next up, and the first of two Star Wars games, slight spoilers there, is Knights of the Old Republic from BioWare. This, for me, is one of BioWare's absolutely greatest games, one of the best Star Wars games of all time, and one that really worked to add more canon to the Star Wars story. Being set 4,000 years before the Galactic Empire, they had a lot of ground to fill with this game. And it's a really good Star Wars game, and just a really good RPG. You can literally play it any way you want, building your character exactly how you want it, building a party of loads of really interesting characters, and also the choice between the light and the dark side really made this interesting. And no spoilers, but that ending is absolutely incredible. Still to this day, one of my favourite Star Wars games of all time. Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, an absolute gem of a game. Jurassic Park Operation Genesis is an absolutely amazing game. It's one I never played back in the day and only picked up a few years ago, probably because it was released quite late in the lifespan of the Xbox. This game also had quite a short run of copies, so it's quite a rare game nowadays, especially to get complete, but it's one that is definitely worth checking out. Guys, let me know in the comments who loves these games where you can build and run your own park. And what's better than running just a theme park? Running a theme park with dinosaurs. You can get the T-Rex, the Triceratops, anything you can imagine. And the best part is, if it all goes wrong, you just watch those dinosaurs running around, eating your guests. It don't really get much better than that, does it? Jurassic Park was, and always will be, one of my favourite films of all time. And I still think to this day, this is the best game based on that film. the second Star Wars game on this list, and probably again one of the best multiplayers on the original Xbox, Star Wars Battlefront 2. So I've chose this over Battlefront 1 just because this one added the space combat, which I think just made an absolute bona fide classic. So Battlefield 1942 was one of my favourite PC games to play back in the day, and this kind of took that formula and gave it a Star Wars lick of paint. So you could do whatever you wanted in this game. You could fly TIE fighters, fly X-Wings, AT-STs, you could be a Jedi, a clone trooper, even a droideka. The possibilities of this were endless, and the multiplayer was absolutely fantastic. It really made you feel like you were a part of a massive battle set in the Star Wars universe. Even though this game did come out in 2004, and they have recently released Battlefront and Battlefront 2 for the new gen consoles, I don't think they ever really caught how this game felt again. The first time I played The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind back in the day, I was absolutely blown away. I've never been into a world so massive with so much to do and so much possibility. I feel like this was one of the first times that the home consoles really had a game with such scale that had been seen on PC before. This game was incredible to be ported onto the original Xbox. The map for this world was absolutely huge. I don't think I ever did everything there was to do in this game. And I know today we've got games like Skyrim which seem even bigger, but this one, with all its crafting system and magic as well, just feels like a bigger, more immersive game. I feel like the magic and the crafting in this game was what really made it stand apart. You could just basically make potions that just kept getting more and more and more powerful, or just make things that just made your character so OP. I always remember putting on these boots that can make you jump about 5 miles through the air, or just give my character about 100 vials of skooma, and then just normally watching the game crash. But I suppose the Xbox did have its limitations. But even with the console's limitations, this game still ran absolutely fantastically. I'm also still on the lookout for the Game of the Year edition of this game, which does add on 2 more massive pieces of content. This really was a game that you could play forever and ever, and one I don't think I'm ever going to forget. Next one is a bit of a wildcard entry. I'm not saying it's a bad game, but it's not the greatest game of all time. It is Jaws Unleashed for the original Xbox. So I know this was also released on PS2, but for the Xbox it became quite a rare game. Poor reviews and a low print run means there isn't a lot of copies of this game out there. But it may not have got good reviews, but I think it's absolutely hilarious. You know, who doesn't want to play as a giant shark going around eating scientists, boats, and pushing buttons? I know sharks are intelligent, but I don't think they're really clever enough to be working computers. This game never really got a sequel, but I think it has kind of got a spiritual sequel in the new game Maneater, which is on Xbox One, PS4, PS5 and Xbox Series X. Really looking forward to checking that one out. So let me know in the comments below, have you played Maneater? Does it stand up to the legacy of Jaws Unleashed? Half-Life 2 is one of the most incredible games on the original Xbox, if for nothing else for the fact that it ran on that console. At the time this was on PC and it was an absolute powerhouse of physics, graphics and gameplay. There's not really a lot that hasn't been said about Half-Life 2, and if you haven't played it, just turn this video off now and go and play it. It is an absolute classic of storytelling, gameplay, absolutely amazing game. I don't think it's ever been bettered. This game also absolutely changed the way we look at first-person shooters. With the physics, the storytelling, it has everything. It even has vehicle sections, even sections where you control a giant alien insect. This game was a massive departure from the original Half-Life, going from inside a small institute into a larger open world. I just hope one day Valve come back and finally give us Half-Life 3, and I'm sure it's going to blow everyone's minds like this did for me back in the day. We're coming to the end of the list, but I can have a list on the original Xbox about talking about Stubbs the Zombie, Rebel Without a Pulse. This is another game that came out late in the life of the original Xbox, and I think got a little bit overlooked back in the day. It had a very limited run and there was not a lot of copies, so today, again, it's quite a precious game. It's a real shame that more people didn't play this game, as it had some really good gameplay mechanics. So being a zombie, you could obviously just eat people's brains. Also, Stubbs could rip off his arm and throw it at people, and if it attached them you could then control that player. So if you're being attacked by a load of soldiers, simply rip off your arm, throw it at them and possess them, and then use their guns against them. Anyone who was bitten by Stubbs also became a zombie. That's how zombies work. So you could build up a massive horde of zombies to fight alongside you. It was absolutely fantastic just seeing a horde of zombies ravaging the city, having a lovely time. Stubbs' body was also a weapon. As well as being able to throw his arm at people, he could also throw bile, throw other body parts, spit at people, and also had quite a lovely weapon, which was his flatulence, which would kill people with his farts. This game also had a really nice art style. Being set in 1959 in America, in Pennsylvania, it was a really nice time capsule of how time was back then, and this was really shown in the visuals, the art design and the music, which all worked together to make a perfectly amazing world. As I said, this game is quite pricey, it is getting harder to play, but if you get the opportunity, it's an absolute must-have in the original Xbox collection. So we've come to the end of the list, but there's only one game that can really be in this top 10, and that is Halo Combat Evolved for the original Xbox. This was the game that first sold me on a Microsoft Xbox. I remember going with a friend into Norwich, going up to the top of Electronic Boutique and just seeing this running on an Xbox on an in-store kiosk. I don't know why they don't have these kiosks running as much in stores anymore, and it was just seeing it there that absolutely blew me away. The open world nature of the game, the vehicle combat and the sheer scale of it just blew my mind. So this game did have an absolutely incredible single player. It changed the game totally and utterly, and first person shooters have never been the same since. But the multiplayer is where this game really shone and really changed things for me gaming wise forever. So many evenings were spent playing this with 2 Xboxes hooked up and 2 TVs, so once again we couldn't look at each other's screens and cheat. I just never forget playing Blood Gulch. We played shotguns only, we played swords only. In terrible times we played sniper rifles only. This, for me, will still be the greatest multiplayer game of all time, especially for couch multiplayer. Guys, I'm sure loads of you played this back in the day, so let me know in the comments below. What was your favourite weapon? What was your favourite map? And were you one of those people who are worse than subhuman scum who used to look at people's screens? Let me know down below. There we have it, guys. That is my top 10 for the original Xbox. So I know these lists are very subjective, and these are my top 10s, but let me know in the comments, what are your favourite games from the Xbox? Also, let me know in the comments below which console you'd like me to do a top 10 for next. Remember, these are my top 10s based on what I like the most, and also games I have a physical copy of in my collection, so don't get angry if something is missing. But thanks for watching, remember to hit that like button and subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game.